the last lecture we have seen the quality economics, that is a cost of quality and value of quality. So in that we have seen what are the different parameters that will uh, say contribute towards the cost of quality. Cost of quality is nothing but it is the loss because of the poor quality, or uh, the expenses incurred towards the prevention of poor quality. So all these things we have seen. Then this is an example, various say um, examples of uh, say cost of prevention, appraisal cost, then internal cost of internal failure, cost of external failure. These things we have seen. Now we'll see in detail. We have discussed, this is the say graph of cost versus quality of conformance, so that we have discussed. Thereafter we discuss the value of quality. So uh, the definition we have seen. Then we have seen the characteristics of products to estimate the value. So it is not easy thing to estimate the value of the quality. It is difficult to find out the value of quality, but still the efforts are made to find out the value of quality, because as we discussed, the value of the quality should always be greater than the cost of quality. Then we have seen the quality contribution. So quality contribution, the difference between the value of the quality and cost of quality at any quality level, that is a quality contribution. So this value should always be positive, that is value should be greater than cost of quality. And we have seen the optimum contribution also. So this is the graph of the quality contribution. On y-axis there is a value of the goods, and this is the increasing quality. So we have seen as the quality increases, the cost goes on decreasing and the value goes on increasing up to certain value. But after certain value, even if your value is increasing, the customer is not ready to pay. So that's why cost of quality will go on increasing, and this difference between value of the quality and cost of quality is going to be maximum at certain point of time. Okay, and that point is called as a optimum quality contribution. So this is the say point where one should stop uh, towards increment in quality. So beyond this point, there is no point. There is a no point in increasing the value of the quality. Okay. Then now today we are going to start with the various quality tools, means various techniques, tools with the help of which we can increase the quality of the product. So there are two types of the quality tools are there. They are called as old quality tools and new quality tools. There are 7 old quality tools and there are 7 new quality tools. So today we will discuss these old quality tools. So always remember that for any kind of decision making, for improving the quality, we will require a large amount of data to be collected. So data is the most important point, or the facts related to a process, facts related to a product are very important. So collection of this data, analysis of this data, presentation of this data is very important if you want to improve the quality of your product or quality of your service. Okay, so the data whichever we are gathering, that should be accurate, that must be relevant for the decision to be made, and most importantly it should be collected in very systematic and organized way. Okay, so two types of the data are there. One is called as the variable type of the data, and another is called as attribute type of the data. In variable type of the data, the in which dimension or feature of the product is actually measured with the help of some measuring instrument. So the output of that measurement is going to be a value. For example, length of the say a component, length of a component, say 13.29 mm. So this, the output is a value in case of the variable data. In case of the attribute data, the products or services are classified as acceptable or not acceptable, means whether it is okay or not okay. That these are the only two options in attribute type of the data, whether the product is acceptable or not acceptable. Only two possibilities are there. Okay, so in this case only count is involved and no measurement is required. So no measuring instrument is required, like in variable type of the data. In variable type of the data, measuring instrument like vernier, micrometer, thermometer, that will be required. Now this whatever these quality tools are there, they are basically related with the collection of the data, organizing the data, presenting the data, analysis of the data, okay, and interpreting the data. So so various tools have various purposes. So before starting any kind of the data collection, it is necessary or it is vital to understand the various say parameters. Like first is the purpose for which data is to be collected. So we should know what is the purpose of the data collection, what is the objective, what we want to do with this with this data. Then next is the nature of the features or defects to be checked. So what feature is to be checked, which defect is to be checked, that we should know. Frequency and the sample size desired for checking, means whatever components we are going to check, whether we have to do 100% inspection or whether we want to do the sampling inspection. So if it is sampling inspection, what should be the sample size, what should be the frequency, so that should be known. Then fourth one is the instrument or the gauges etc. to be used for checking. So which instrument will be used, which kind of gauge will be used for checking, that must be decided. Then the persons involved, so which persons are involved in data collection and taking training necessary for them, that should we know. So these things are prerequisite for before studying any kind of the quality tools or before studying the various types of the quality tools. So this is the, you can say, preliminary information which is required before any data collection. So let us now see this. These are the 7 say old quality tools, that is right from check sheet, then flow charts, histogram, Pareto chart, cause and effect diagram, scatter diagram, and control chart. These are the 7 old quality tools. So let us see now this one by one. Okay, so first is a check sheet. So check sheet, it is a method for collecting and organizing the measured data or counting data. This is the purpose. Okay, so it helps us to collect the data in systematic as well as in organized way. Okay, so this whatever data collected can be used as input data for the other quality tools. So as we see, in say previous slide there are various quality tools. So this, the output of this check sheet or the data collected in check sheet, it can be used as input for the other quality tools. So this data can be used as input to other quality tools like a Pareto diagram or scatter diagram, like that. So the benefits of using the check sheet are, it collects the data in systematic and organized manner. So many times it happens that whatever data you are having, it is not systematic, it is in disorganized manner, so it is very difficult to interpret that data. Then another benefit is it is possible to determine the source of the problem. So many times the data collected in the form of check sheet helps us to find out the source of a problem. So source of the problem can be determined with the help of the check sheets. It facilitates the classification of the data, that is a stratification. So it is possible with the help of the check sheet to classify that data in certain classes. Okay, so these are the some of the advantages of the or benefits of the check sheet. So you can see one example of the check sheet is shown. So in this check sheet you can say a simple format is there. So name of the operator, then date, location where this check sheet is prepared, section of the organization, and these are the defect types and number of times a particular defect has occurred on different days. For example, these are the defect types in first column. So that is, it is say some type of the glass making glass bottle making plant is there, and various defects found are written over here. And on say right side other columns are there, that those are the days of the say working days, say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. So on Monday the 2 bottles are broken, on Friday 3 bottles are there, so total 5 bottles are broken. So this is the type of the defects, and other type of the defects are also written, and classification is and detailing is done. So with the help of which we can say that in a week total 31 bottles are of no use, that is they have having any kind of say some kind of defect. And if we further analyze it, on Monday 8 bottles are found to be defective, 5 on Tuesday and likewise, and still on out of 8 on Monday 2 are broken, 3 have missing label, 1 is having dirt, damage while packaging are 2. So like this we can easily, whatever data is there, that can be easily organized, and we can get so with the help of this we can take some corrective action so that this number gets reduced. We don't want this number, the target should be 0, to reduce this number 31 to 0. So with the help of such type of the check sheet we can find the source of the problem, that can be done. So one more example just we have seen. So there are different types of the check sheets are there. First type of the check sheet is a defective items check sheet. So defective item check sheets means in first column defect type of the defect is there, and in other column number of times this defect has occurred, and tally is given. So with the help of this we can find out which kind of defect is occurring frequently, or which kind of defect is the most say problematic defect. So from this we can see that there are 2 defects, that is a defect number 1 and defect number 4. They are occurring many times, so you should concentrate towards these 2 defects, that is a defect number 4 and defect number 1, and accordingly the action can be taken. So you can decide the priority here also. So defective item check sheets. So so this type of the check sheet is used for collecting the data about products having defects. Okay, so what you have to do, if very simple thing is there, you have to, whatever components you have to the check sheet is to be made, just inspect that component, and that component is having say defect 1, just mark one, say vertical line, or you can mark number also, you can mark tick also, that can be done. Then second type of the check sheet is called as a defect location check sheet. So this type of the check sheet is used to identify the location of the defect. So many times whenever you are trying to find out the source of the defect, it is very important that we should know the location of the defect. So because every manufacturing process has its own say pattern, so many times it happens that a certain kind of defect occurs at certain location only. Okay, so with that analysis, you can easily find out the source of the problem. So here basically how it is find out, the checklist generally has a picture of the product. So you can, one example is shown, this is one kind of product is there. So it is a door paint check sheet, door paint check sheet. So this is a door and it is painted. So if it is painted, what kind of the defects are found out in painting, that are written here. So this is a check sheet. So your defect type, symbol and count. So you can say this is a picture of the component. So bubble, first defect is a bubble, so its symbol is say a circle is shown, and how many times it has occurred, say 5, 10, 15, 17 times it has occurred. And see, now what you have to search for this symbol here. So the bubble has occurred here, here as well as here, isn't it? So you have to concentrate at these three say locations. This is 1, 2 and 3. At these three locations there is a problem of the bubble. So with the help of this, you can easily take some corrective action. Okay, then run, another defect is there, that is called as a run, shown by the triangle. It has occurred 8 times and its locations are shown. So one is here and others are shown at different locations. Scuff, shown by rectangle. So scuff is 2 are here, 2 are here. So accordingly, once you get the frequency and the location, it is possible to take the corrective action, isn't it? So defect location check sheet, it is widely used in the foundries, because location of the defect is very important in the foundry. Based on the location of the defect only the various corrective actions are taken in foundries. So location of the defect is the most important parameter in analysis of the defects in a casting. Then third, so that type of the check sheet. Third is a defect cause check sheet. So defect cause check sheet means this check sheet is used to indicate the cause of defect in a product. So on one side, so here the causes, one defect is taken here. Suppose there are blowholes in a casting, so that is written. So here causes of a bed block, okay, are written. The defect is a bed block. Okay, so what are the causes? So these are the causes which are written. There may be various possibilities contributing towards a defect. A defect can be caused by a number of possibilities. For if you take the example of the blowholes in casting, so blowholes in castings may be due to the less temperature, may be due to the less permeability of molding sand, it may be due to the your mold is wet, okay, it may be due to that, it may be because of the core which you are using or placing in the mold, that may not be properly baked, venting is improper, temperature of the pouring is less, so moisture content is more. So these are the various causes, but the defect is only one, that is a blowhole. So we have to find out what is the exact cause of a particular defect. So for that you should try to write down the causes and how many times that has been seen. Okay, so as I told you that more than one type of the defect may be observed at the same time, so that can be easily seen, so that it again helps you to take the corrective action. Once you got to know the root cause of a particular defect, why this particular thing is happening, then it is very easy to find out the remedial action. Okay, so this is called as a defect cause check sheet. Then fourth is a confirmation check sheet, which is basically used in operation like machine maintenance, service performance, to make sure that the proper procedures are followed. So many times we have seen the confirmation check sheet, it is say used by the maintenance department. One example is already is shown in this, say is in front of you. So this is a maintenance check sheet, so where engine oil, brake oil, cooling water level, fan belt, battery. So this is a check sheet for the maintenance of a vehicle is there. So they are checking whether engine oil is okay or not okay, so that particular remark is written. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, like that, some kind of data is there. Brake oil okay, cooling water oil is not okay, you can say it is checked but it is not okay. Fan belt okay, battery okay, so cooling water level, so inspected, and this is the remark. Okay, so if cooling water level is not up to the mark, you say it is said that add 300 cc, so add 300 cc of the cooling water. So that is the this is a check sheet, that is called as a confirmation check sheet, basically used in the maintenance operations. So that was the first tool. Then second is the process flow chart. So process flow chart illustrates the sequence of the operations required to complete a task. So it is necessary that whatever process or whatever task is done by an organization, that should be illustrated visually in proper sequence. Okay, so there should be starting point, there should be end point. Okay, so there are some benefits of this process flow chart also. It identifies the process improvement. So if a picture which shows the entire process visually, there is a possibility that the process can be improved, so that can be identified very easily with the help of the process flow chart. If entire process is in front of the eyes of, say, management, then in that case there is always a scope for the improvement of the process, and that can be identified. It is very important, is easy to understand the process. If a person is new in the organization, that person can easily understand the process if it is in the form of a process flow chart. It shows the duplicated effort and non value added steps also. So when process flow chart is there, uh, duplicate there may be duplicate efforts, so that can be easily identified, and non value added steps can be removed. It is possible to clarify the relationship between people and organization, target specific steps in the process for improvement. So these are the benefits of a process flow chart. Okay, process flow chart can be drawn in various ways. This is a process flow chart for printing. This is a printing process flow chart, so it can be drawn in number of ways. Since it is a pictorial representation, it can be drawn using pictures. You can use the symbols, line diagrams. Okay, so you can see this is the printing process flow chart. So pre-production is there, then raw material preparation, graphics and layout, plate making, make ready and print, post press, the finishing, and then shipping. So this is a entire process flow chart for the printing operation, isn't it? Then the third quality tool which is used is histogram. So histogram is nothing but the it is used to determine the spread or variation of set of data points in a graphical form. So we know that whatever process you study, it will not be a consistent process. Some kind of variation is always going to be there. So uh, since the variation is inbound in that process, it is necessary to determine the spread of the data points. Okay, how the process is spread, what are the limits, what is the lower limit, what is the say upper limit. So that is determined by the histogram. So how it is done? So collect the data. So 50 to 100 data points are connected, then collected, determine the range of the data. Means what is the range of data? Range means it is the difference between minimum value and maximum value, that is to be decided. Calculate the size of the class interval. Means if your data is between say 0 to 50, so determine the class of interval, that is again. So we know that the range is from 0 to 50, so we will mark a class interval, that is a total 50 data points are divided in 5 classes, that is 0 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, and 41 to 50. That is called as a class of the interval, and divide the data points into classes. Okay, and after that count the data points and draw the histogram. So one example is shown here. This is the result of the example. Suppose the result of your class is declared, and I want to draw the histogram. So first I will do what I will do. Whatever number of students are there, so those number of students marks are with me. So I will marks are between 0 to 100 class. So all this range is 0 to 100. That range is divided into say various classes. The class number 1 0 to 10, class number 2 11 to 20, class number 3 21, actually it should be 21 to 30, 31 to 40, like that. And now if what I will do, say I will take roll number 1. So roll number 1, so this is a roll number 1 has got say 5 marks. So I will mark 1, count 1. Roll number 2, say again he has got 7 marks, so count 2. So likewise in each class interval I will go on marking the numbers. And finally I will prepare the histogram. So in 0 to 10 class there are say 8 students. In 11 to 20 class there are 20 students. In 20 to 30 class say there are 22 students. In 30 to 40 class there are 28 students, and likewise. Okay, so from this we can get an idea. So this is the histogram. So x-axis of this histogram shows the number of times, or it shows the variant, and the y-axis shows, so x-axis shows the variant and y-axis shows the frequency of occurrence. So number of times a particular variant has occurred, that is shown by the y-axis. Okay, so from this we can say the uh, this, from this particular set of the data points we can easily see this is the highest column, having highest height, so it is say 55. So we can see the 55 students have got the mark between 50 to 60. So from this we can get the idea how the result distribution is there. So this is a, this is called as a histogram. Then one more quality tool is there, that is called as a Pareto chart. So Pareto chart is very important and it is widely used in the industries, basically for the whenever you have limited resources are there. So it is based on the 2080 principle, which is propagated by Pareto in 1897. So he said that while investigating distribution of the wealth and income in Italy, Pareto discovered that small percentage of any given group, that is say around 20%, accounts for high amount of a certain characteristics. So he observed that 20% people have 80% of the wealth. Similarly, in manufacturing also 20%, 80% of the defects are because of the 20% reasons. As you can see, one example is there. So check sheet is available with you. This is the check sheet which you have studied in say first, that is the first tool. So 200 defects are studied. 200 defects are studied in various components, and they have seen that the components, these defects, the components are rejected due to various reasons. So what are these reasons? You can see the reasons are, say some of the components are rejected due to crack, then scratch, some are resulted stain, some are resulted due to dent, and likewise. So number of times this particular defect has occurred is shown here. For example, out of 200 components, you can see the 10 components are rejected due to the crack defect, then 42 components are rejected due to the you can see it is due to the scratch defect, whereas again stain 6, dent 104 components are rejected to the dent defect. So likewise tally of each defect is done and total is a 200. So if we take the contribution of defect in percentage, that can be written over here. So why it is required to be done? Because every organization will have more say problems than the resources. So always there is a say there are resources and there are problems. So you will require the resources to overcome the problems, but in any industry the problems are more than the resources. So it is now it becomes necessary for the organization, any organization doesn't have resources to tackle all the problems simultaneously. In organization cannot tackle all these problems simultaneously because they don't have that much resources. So the organization has to optimize the resources. Okay, they have to use their resources in such a way that the number of defects get reduced. Okay, so in that case Pareto charts are useful. So here what is done, how it is done, create a preliminary list of the problem classification. That is done, preliminary list of the problem classification, that is which defect is causing, how many times a particular defect has occurred. Tally the occurrences, so occurrences are tallied. So for crack it is 10, for scratch it is 40. 2. Arrange each classification in order from highest to lowest. Construct the bar chart. So it is done, you can see here this bar chart is that the previous, the bar chart for these defects is prepared in the next slide. So you can say dent is 104 times, so you can see. So in descending order this bar chart is prepared. 104, scratch 40 times, hole 20 times, others 14, crack 10, 6, 10, 6, gap 4. So so this type of the graphical chart is made. Okay, so after that you can see one cumulative error can be drawn. So as you can see, one cumulative line is drawn. So whatever graph is there, so its cumulative percentage is shown here. Okay, so it is, this is the count of errors and this is the type of the error. So broken link, this example is different from the previous one. So here the cumulative percentage graph can be drawn. So it is starting from here, as you can see. So broken links, they have occurred, say how many times, around say 480 times, isn't it? Then spelling errors 200 times, missing title tag say around 70 times, and like that. So out of that, this is the count. So these bars are nothing but the count, and this red line indicates the cumulative percentage of the error. So this cumulative percentage of the error, cumulative percentage carried out, and that is marked over here. So you can say out of say this 100%, say component 100% of the components, so around, can say whatever percentage that can be, it is kitna hai dekho, 50% hai. So around 50% of the components are rejected because of the broken links only. Around 50% of the components are rejected because of the broken links. Then you can say it is not 40%, then some 30%, around 30%, then some, you can 7-8% because of the, say, one more error. So like that, what you can do, at 80% cumulative proportion, you can say this is 80%. So at 80% line, you have to draw one horizontal line. Okay, this is the horizontal line that you have to draw. That this horizontal line from 80%, that will touch this cumulative percent line somewhere. So that point you have to project on the horizontal axis. So project this point on the horizontal axis. Okay, so whatever defects that are on the left of this horizontal this line, so this is your point, the point which is projected from this line, 80% line. So there are some defects on the left side of this line, there are some defects on the right side of the line. So from this, what we can see, that 80% of your defects, 80% of your defects are because of only 3 defects, that is broken links, spelling errors, and missing title tag. So these 3 defects are responsible for 80% of your what you can say, 80% of your defect contribution. So what the organization can do, the organization can concentrate on these 3 defects, so that if the industry can say put their resources to remove these three defects only, that is broken links, spelling error and missing title tag. So this they they put their efforts to overcome these defects, then your 80% of the rejection will come down, or it will be deleted. So because since you have only limited resources, whatever resources you have, you can utilize these resources and you can take the corrective action on these three defects only, so that 80% of your rejection will come in, will become zero, and only 20% rejection will be there. Okay, so this is called as the Pareto chart. So it helps in a number of ways. So this is another tool which can be used basically for the prioritize the problem. So this is very important. Many times this is asked in the exam at the time of the oral also. So the bottom line of the Pareto analysis is that it is a technique to determine where to begin the rectification process, or to display the relative importance of problems. So even if there are, we know that how many defects are there, how many problems are there, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, see 10 types of the errors are there, or 10 types of the defects are there, but the industry is not having enough resources to tackle all these 10 resources, all these 10 defects simultaneously. They can't work on all these 10 defects simultaneously. So the company has to make the compromise, and they have to use their resources in such a way that maximum of their defects are reduced. So this is one of the technique. Only because the resources are limited and the defects or the problems are more, and all the problems cannot be tackled, cannot be resolved simultaneously. So whatever output or result given by the Pareto diagram, that result can be considered for solving the problems. So we will stop here.